Okay, so a couple things to get into before I start this video. Yesterday I put out a video on my first impressions of the ASUS ROG Strix GTX 1080ti. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to watch that. I just basically go over GPU Tweak 2 and what I think of the card so far, stuff like that. A couple things to note before I start this video. The first thing is all the games that I benchmark in this video are at 4K. Whatever the max setting is in the game for the ultra presets or the high, whatever the highest is, those are the presets used. The monitor I'm using for this is an ASUS 28-inch 4K MG28UQ, so it's just a 60 Hz 4K monitor, nothing too fancy, 1 millisecond response time, it's an LED. The specs of my build that I'm using are the following. For my CPU, I have an i7-6850K, so that's a 6-core with 3.8 gigahertz on the clocks. I don't currently have it overclocked. I just reinstalled Windows, and when I did the reinstall, I put my default BIOS back on. I haven't had time to go put the overclock on. So that's just stock speeds. The motherboard is an ASUS X99A2. For RAM, I have 16 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance LPK, 2666 megahertz. For my GPU, well, no surprise here, I'm running ASUS ROG STRIX GTX 1080ti. Oh, for the cooler for the CPU, I have a Corsair H100i on it. But that shouldn't matter too much because it's not overclocked at stock speed, so it wouldn't get too hot to begin with. So with that being said, let's go through these benchmarks of these games. Remember, everything's at 4K max settings. Enjoy. Okay, just one quick thing to note about these benchmarks you just saw. This card out of the box comes with a core clock of 1569 megahertz and a boost clock of 1683 megahertz. And if you switch it to OC mode right here, it goes to 1594 megahertz with a boost clock of 1708 megahertz. Now, that's already pretty overclocked to begin with, so I added my own personal overclock on top of that by boosting it an extra 90 megahertz on the core. I have the power and temperature target all the way up. I didn't boost the memory, so I just squeezed a little bit more out of the card. You're not going to see any massive overclocks on this like other cards because this card is already pretty overclocked to begin with. So OC mode, I think it's like 107%, and then mine I squeezed out a couple more. The GPU speed goes up to 112%. Temperatures were good for the whole time. I didn't see anything go over about 73-ish. Most games it went to 78 degrees Celsius. Most of the time it was 73, 74 degrees. But it did peak like 78 degrees Celsius. Now remember, I am in an NZXT S340 Elite mid-tower case, so there's not a lot of airflow compared to full tower open test benches, so nothing to be worried about. It is close to 80, but still, I mean, that's more than acceptable to be in. Hope you guys enjoyed the benchmarks. I might do more later with more games once I have them installed, so be sure to like this video, subscribe, comments, do all the usual stuff if you want to see the next video I have or more like this. Comment below any ways I can improve, anything else you want to see. If you want to see like 2K benchmarks, I feel like 1080p benchmarks, they're not even worth it now. I mean, if you're buying a 1080 Ti to play 1080p games, something's wrong with you. Like, you're better off honestly just getting a 980 Ti or even like a 1070 or even just a 1080, especially now with the price cut. So this card, 1080 Ti, you can play, as you saw from these benchmarks, on pretty demanding games, except Overwatch. It's not that demanding. You can play 4K games with one card.